Is it really possible for your average Magic the Gathering player to reach Mythic without spending a single penny? Today, we're going to put that to the test, starting with a fresh account and grinding the ranked ladder to see how many games it takes to reach the coveted Mythic rank. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Day 2 of the Free-to-Play to Mythic Challenge. We are here in Bronze 3. We're going to go ahead and hop right into it. We're going to re-roll one of these 500 gold quests, not for 750 today. Now the goal for today, obviously we want to climb those ranks. We want to try and get those daily challenges done and see if we can get to 6,000 gold to buy enough packs for another Mythic wildcard. Bump us up one more step on our collection to a fully completed landfall deck. Into game 1, this looks like a totally keepable hand to me. Going second again, however we do have protection for 2 different rampers with our lands. Looks like we even get into the mirror match here. This should be an interesting game to see how it goes. Now, I would definitely like to go for the Mossborn Hydra here. However, if we drop Bristly Bill and Terramorphic Expanse, we'll be able to get slightly more value. The other concern is that we do want to keep up Defend the Rider mana. However, if he uses whatever removal he might have on a Bristly Bill early, it does make our Mossborn Hydra significantly weaker. However, it does not put us in the worst spot. We'll go ahead and get our white mana while we can, up our Bristly Bill, and hopefully have a pretty strong Mossborn Hydra next turn. There is merit to playing the Forest and dropping the Mossborn Hydra so that it would be a Trampler next turn already. However, even with the 2 doublings, it's only going to go to a 10 power. It's not going to be quite enough to kill, and I like the idea of having a backup plan on our Bristly Bill first and foremost, pushing back our win turn by 1. Here, while we can get our double doubles, as it were, we're going to go for just 1 with our Escape Tunnel, or sorry, with just 1 with our Forest, have Bristly Bill do it and pop him to 4, and then on the following turn we can Bristly Bill put him to 10, and then bring him up to 28 Trampler. However, I want to keep Defend the Rider mana up as long as possible for that exact reason. It gives us some protection, and it stops any potential funny business. Alright, getting into game 2 today. This is a very funny hand, lots of protection, a little bit of removal, and not a lot of things to do. Take our first mulligan to 6, and this is absolutely something keepable. Drop a Saz's Chocobo turn 1, have some protection with Defend the Rider, and hopefully get this Traveling Chocobo to generate some card advantage. I think we will go ahead and bottom. So I think we will go ahead and bottom a Forest, in the hopes that we find another land by turn 3, which we should have about an 80% chance to do. Find another Traveling Chocobo. There we go. Pretty lucky to find our third land right away. Where we can go ahead and drop our Traveling Chocobo. And it looks like we have a land on top. Now I think the best play for us is we're going to drop our Mossborn Hydra, play the Escape Tunnel and get a few doubles in, and then what we can do the following turn is drop Traveling Chocobo, hopefully find another land. It makes this Mossborn Hydra more than big enough. We'll get him with a big Saz's Chocobo. And we'll see if he has the cards to win this turn or stop our Mossborn Hydra. Feel pretty confident with the next turn being able to defend the Rider and shelter by Ghost whatever chump blocker he might have if he uses his mana to get rid of the Hydra. Win 2 in the books. We're here in Game 3 with another phenomenal hand. We get some early Saz's Chocobos and some great 2-drops to get in as well as our double fetch lands. Cecil Dark Knight's a pretty scary creature. He's a great blocker for 1 mana, and if we allow him to stick around for long enough, he's going to be a pretty tough creature to deal with later on in the game. Seaway Hook Grab with Deep Cavern Bat. Bristly Bill is a reasonable choice, I believe. Makes that Tifa and Mossborn Hydra slightly weaker without Bristly Bill being able to stack on top of them early. Gonna go for white mana here, since we won't have 4 mana to hit our Ice Till Explore even if we top deck it anyway. Might as well get it in case we happen to top deck a Shelter by Ghosts. Lots of blockers for him. We'll see if next turn he's able to drop his Enduring Curiosity. Definitely hoping for an untapped land so we can get our Summon Fenrir in early and make these Sazos Chocobos a little bit more deadly to deal with. Sadly, that's not something we're able to achieve. We will send in our Sazos Chocobo and be more than happy to trade one of them for a Cecil. Sadly, this does open the opportunity for an Enduring Curiosity on his part. With his 4 flyers, to generate a lot of card advantage for him to do something here. Lucky for us, it doesn't seem to happen this turn. That Flood Split Drowner can be very dangerous, a great way to deal with our Mossborn Hydra. Go ahead and crack this now. Not a whole lot of point in waiting. Now here we do have the opportunity of land dropping to get these to 5. We can Ice Till Explore. That'll let us play our Escape Passage and get them both to 7, which does make them chunk block with a Spyglass, but does not put us in the position to win the game. I think our best choice is most likely going to be playing our Mossborn Hydra and trying to create another threat for them to have to deal with. That is okay with me. We'll go ahead and swing through as they still only have, let's see, 6 damage coming through. Puts them at 2, which means Cecil will get to flip. However, the hope is that with the Ice Till Explore, we'll be able to grow these Sazos Chocobos to be more than enough to get over 1 life-linking Cecil. Potential Kaito Ninjutsu here, yeah. very interesting to not use that Kaito ability in the second main phase. That is definitely going to be the game for him, as we are free to enter combat and swing for the game while he's tapped out. Picking up a nice win against a mere mid-range. Here we are in another game with what looks to be another perfectly playable hand. Nice curve of 1, 2, 3, as well as our fetch land for hopefully some extra landfall triggers. Mulligan by our opponent. Seems like it could be a mirror match on our hands already. Dropping a Tifa of his own. We'll see if he holds up the Evolving Wilds for a little bit of interaction with Tifa. There we go. Now he has a way for Tifa to block my Tifa cleanly and take her out. We'll go ahead and we will drop our Summon Fenrir. We'll get our Saza's Chocobo in for a little bit of damage. However, we will want to keep our Tifa Lockhart back, as just a couple damage. It's probably not worth trading with his Tifa Lockhart. Go ahead and grab ourselves some white mana. However, if we do some math here, if he waits until his turn, he has the potential of 3 land drops, which puts Tifa... And if he waits, he drops Bristly Bill, 3 land drops, he's going to put Tifa to 4, then to 10, and then that's going to be enough to kill. So it might be worth trying to get this Tifa Lockharts to trade. As well as with only these lands, it's unlikely we're going to find enough damage to do anything truly meaningful without getting some lucky top decks. We get a surrender, very interesting. Depending on the pieces in their hand, that definitely could have been a lost game for us. Here we are, absolutely blazing through the standard ladder right now, with what looks to be an interesting hand. Not my first choice for what I'd want to play, however, not the worst choice in the world as well. It's a little bit of a passive hand, and maybe not the best keep of my career, but I know that I've kept worse many a time. Go ahead and play our fetch land early, so we'll have Shelter by Ghost available as soon as possible to us. Even though we will be taking our turn 2 off to drop Tifa Lockhart, it's good to have this available turn 3 rather than having to wait until turn 4. We'll see what kind of black removal they have in their hand. There may have been merit to waiting a turn, dropping the Tifa Lockhart on turn 3, and having Defend the Rider mana available to her. So now just that one piece of removal, our deck is significantly The Scavenging Ooze is a great top deck for us. Gives us a creature that can start generating some life and generate counters, albeit a little bit more very, very interesting. The Scavenging Ooze is definitely a way to deal with that unstoppable slasher. However, I am more than happy to drop a Bristly Bill and Shelter by Ghost instead. Great turn for us, pushing for a good chunk of damage, and even building ourselves a little bit of a cushion for our life total as well. Takes his turn off to deal with the Scavenging Ooze. Will be more than available to just Shelter by Ghost on the Bristly Bill. I believe our best choice is probably going to be to Shelter by Ghost on Bristly Bill, make him a little stronger, spread the love a little bit. Or perhaps it's better to slap a second one on the Scavenging Ooze and give him Ward 4. Make him a lot more challenging to deal with. There's no creatures in the graveyard to generate any more counters on him, however, so I'd rather have it on the Bristly Bill, make him dedicate a few more resources to meaningfully interact with any of our creatures. We'll make sure we keep Defend the Rider mana open for whatever kill spell he might be able to use. That's a very, very nice way to get around that Shelter by Ghost ward cost. We may go ahead and send Bristly Bill to our exile, giving him his Unstoppable Slasher back. Potentially there was merit to Defend the Rider to create a creature token and give ourselves another target for that strategic betrayal. Now that I think about it, I'm almost confident that was the correct choice. Huge misplay there, which hopefully won't cost us the game, but is very, very possible to do so. Very, very interesting to play the intimidation tactics there. Had he taken the Defend the Rider instead of the Tifa Lockhart, he could have cleared out the hand with not much I could do about it. Here we can drop Rasaza's Chocobo. And now we have the opportunity to send in the Scavenging Ooze, and if he blocks with the Unstoppable Slasher, to Defend the Rider to make him indestructible, and have the Scavenging Ooze snatch that Slasher right out of the graveyard. While this play may leave us more vulnerable to more interaction in the future, it's a way to guaranteed get rid of one of these Unstoppable Slashers for a long time and make him spend a lot of his mana to get rid of the Scavenging Ooze. In a bit of a top deck battle with the black deck here, definitely made a couple of misplays here that I think would have turned this game's tide in our favor a lot sooner. Traveling Chocobo is phenomenal. Let's just hope we're able to find a land off the top. Not exactly. However, we do have another Shelter by Ghost to hopefully get in for a little bit more damage. Clear that Unstoppable Slasher one more time. Sadly not able to find a land off the top. Here we do have the option of Shelter by Ghosting on either the Chocobo or, well, I suppose they're both Chocobos. However, that doesn't necessarily clear a blocker for us and puts that specific creature at a bigger target of being killed on the following turn. However, I do like the idea of doing it on the Saz's Chocobo, as then they have to choose which piece they're going to want to kill, and this does allow us to get our Unstoppable Slasher off the board. However, if we were to steal this Deep Cavern Bat, that does allow us to drop our Tifa Lockhart and potentially have a way to win the following turn if we're able to find a fetch land. I think the safer choice is to get rid of the Slasher, however, I don't think there is any horrible decision making in taking the Deep Cavern Bat either. Unholy Annex is a phenomenal card for them, especially with the Soulsling Sanctuary already flipped into a full-blown creature. Start generating them some card advantage in life every single turn. Able to find a Saz's Chocobo off the top, find one more way to get ourselves a land. Drop our Mossborn Hydra, drop our Forest, and hopefully survive one more turn to be able to get in for the game. Very, very good turn for us as Traveling Chocobo generating the card advantage it's supposed to. Now we'll take a step back, defend the rider for a little bit of interaction on the following turn, and hope to find another land on the, or a second from the top. Lifelinking from the Scavenging Ooze was able to give us a really nice cushion even into the Unholy Annex Ritual Chamber combo. Fetch land off the top would make this Mossborn Hydra more than big enough to seal the game. Not exactly what we find, but definitely nothing to scoff at either. Able to make our creatures much, much bigger. Can send in our Mossborn Hydra for a very large amount of damage. Potentially worth keeping Defend the Rider on it so that it doesn't die to the Tiny Bones. Although, what it does appear to be is they will have to block the Mossborn Hydra with either the Soulstone Sanctuary or the Demon, likely with the Tiny Bones as well. Swinging with the Saz's Chocobo while we have the Defend the Rider active may just be enough damage for game. So it does look like we'll be able to get in for 13 damage. Oh, 15 damage. Seems he's done his blocking slightly incorrectly. That will be the game for us. Got some lucky with some of his draws and the pieces they were able to put together there. Unfortunately, we lost connection to the server loading into our next game. However, that's only one loss on the record and allows us to jump back into it. Actually appears we even get into the same match. Does save us one loss on the record. Another playable hand, while a little bit scary without having the second untapped mana for our curve. Definitely worth the risk in my opinion on the play. Here we have the opportunity to drop Tifa Lockhart early, however I like the idea of getting the Shelter by Ghosts out as soon as possible, so that we are able to start getting some life back against this, what seems to be a red-based aggro deck. This way we also are able to keep up our Defend the Rider mana to hopefully burn a turn and some card advantage against the mono red. Absolutely beautiful land arts from Edge of Eternities. Probably my favorite not full art land arts. Looks like we're into an Is It matchup instead of purely mono red. But this is exactly the situation we were looking for nonetheless. Here we have the opportunity to Shelter by Ghosts and drop a land, which should get it out of any 1 mana kill spell range, which I believe is going to be our best choice. Start giving us some life back and start slowly whittling away at that health bar. Very, very early win for us into the Is It matchup. Thought this might have been a loss, but lucky for us we were able to get back into the same game and sneak out a win. After that game, with the free Mastery Pass, we already have some Through the Omen Path packs to open. We can enter the shop here and buy some packs with our gold, and that should hopefully get us to 1 more Mythic wildcard, so we can change up the deck just a little bit. Now here we have 6 packs to open. Be actually more than enough to get us that next Mythic wildcard. Sadly, we're not able to find a Mythic wildcard from the packs themselves, but another rare wildcard is nothing to scoff at. Now we can go into our deck list. We can go and add in another Bristly Bill. I think I want to prioritize getting the Bristly Bills up before the Traveling Chocobos, as this does require a little bit of luck off the top of the deck, where Bristly Bill always makes these Mossborn Hydra and Tifa Lockhart abilities get a lot stronger early on. We'll go ahead and craft up our Bristly Bill, and we can go ahead and cut this Summon Fenrir. I like the one of Scavenging Ooze, at least until we're able to finish out those playsets. We'll go ahead and get back into the ranked ladder. Here we are, another game with lots of protection removal. Not a lot to do with it. This is a hand we kept last time, and while I'm inclined to keep it again, I'm a little bit scared for what the future might hold with, again, 1 removal spell on this Tifa. It's something I'm willing to keep because I think the upside is definitely worth it, as shown in that matchup against the mono black. However, definitely a risky hand, and I would not fault anyone for wanting to mulligan this away. To a weapons manufacturing deck. Definitely possible we want to hold up Tifa Lockhart for 1 more turn so we have a little bit of protection on her before she gets hit by the Sheltered by Ghosts. We'll get some munitions in for sure. Now here we're able to drop our Tifa Lockhart with a little bit of protection on her, and hopefully last just one turn to get in with Shelter by Ghost and our fetch land for the double triggers for a little bit of life gain against this deck.
If this is the competition, I could win on an ornithopter. Trash to triumph!
Makes sense for him to sack and have the musicians target Tifa Lockhart. We're able to give it hexproof and indestructible and protect it from any more funny business this turn.
Let's go, go, go!
Now here we want to Shelter by Ghosts. We have a couple options. We can get rid of our Chandra, but we can just hit that for damage this turn. We can get rid of this weapons manufacturing, stop his munitions token generation for the time being, and I think that's going to be our best choice. Here we can escape tunnel, fetch it, and be able to swing, get rid of that Chandra, and give ourselves a little bit of life back as well. Holding up Defend the Rider yet again to have a lot of protection for us on his following turn. Another win in the books. I'm playing in lots of very, very interesting decks here in the bronze rank. It's definitely interesting to see the different type of archetypes people are able to put together. Here we are with another phenomenal hand. Getting very, very lucky in our opening hands today and winning a little bit more dice rolls than we were yesterday as well. Go ahead and drop our Mana Dork on turn 1. Now here we definitely can drop Tifa Lockhart, however I'm a little bit nervous of whatever bounce spell they might have. I think I'd like to drop the Saz's Chocobo, get it some counters with the Evolving Wilds, and keep up the, well, I suppose the forest mana for a little bit of protection. Very nice to have these early turns to generate some advantage and not have to worry too much about what interaction they might have. Love the forest off the top. Finding the Shelter by Ghost right afterwards gives us a great chance to put together a finish here in the next couple turns. Being able to hold up Defend the Rider mana is absolutely phenomenal for our game plan as well. Able to find another land off the top. Surrender by another opponent, giving us another victory on the books. Only one win away from getting our first real rank up into Silver Tier 4. Here we are with yet again another phenomenal hand. The luck continues to be pushed our way today. Looks like we might be into a little bit of a mono white tokens. Definitely want to try and find a way to win before they're able to drop that big Elspeth or keep our Shelter by Ghosts available for it at least. Now here, while I do like the idea of playing the Traveling Chocobo as soon as possible, I think I want to play our tap land so we can guarantee to get our Icetill Explorer down and get the Evolving Wilds from the graveyard. Interesting play, however, I think the safer choice is going to be to play our Traveling Chocobo. Always the possibility for an untapped land off the top, and that at least guarantees us some extra triggers on our Bristly Bill the following turn. Not able to find an untapped land off the top, however, a fetch land which will give us lots of counters on our Bristly Bill, and even some counters on our Traveling Chocobo depending on how we choose to arrange them. Go ahead and make both of our creatures strong, and demand some kind of answer the following turn. That's certainly an answer of some kind for sure. Now here we may as well drop our Icetill Explorer, play our lands from the graveyard, and generate ourselves a little bit of advantage. However, we can drop a forest, get our Saz's Chocobo in, start stacking up those landfall triggers. Hopefully with Bristly Bill and the Icetill Explorer fetch lands, we'll be able to make this Saz's Chocobo big enough to win the game on the following turn. Beza is a phenomenal card for them. Gives them a great blocker, a little bit of life total, even some mana advantage as well. Here we can drop our Bristly Bill. And then we can start generating those counter advantages. However, we do have the opportunity to escape tunnel and make our Saz's Chocobo unblockable. Although I suppose not quite, as these abilities are going to go on the stack before we have the opportunity to escape tunnel. We still have the opportunity to stack up more and more of those landfall triggers. Make our Icetill and our Saz's Chocobo both big enough to hit the base of the Bounding Spring. Milled through a decent chunk of our deck. Plus side of this is we do thin ourselves out of a lot of land top decks here that we're not exactly hoping for. Now it does look like they do have a way to trade their Beza for the Icetill Explorer, which while I'm not exactly excited about, I'm also not the most in fear of either. As we have our mana to escape tunnel on Bristly Bill, double him, and make him more than enough of a threat to push through. Very interesting choice to keep the Beza alive. Wonder what their plan is. Perhaps a board wipe. Simply wanting to get in for a little bit more damage before they clear everything out. Perfectly reasonable play from my opinion. Second board wipe may cause the game for us. Go ahead and drop another Ice Tool Explorer. Draw ourselves an Evolving Wilds and try and get some of these lands out of here. Great answer to our Shelter by Ghosts they have in the main deck. Hopefully he does not have the mana to make this Cathar Commando active before I still can clear this Elspeth at least for a turn. That's always a good option as well. Llanowar Elves is not exactly what we're looking for, but it's definitely a playable card.
Join the fight.
It's not looking super hot for us right now, but we'll see what we're able to top deck in hopefully the next coming turns. A lot of card advantage generated for him. See what we're able to find off the top. Definitely not a bad piece. Hopefully it's not too little too late. Unfortunately, that seems like it may be the case. Sadly, he has the opportunity to sack his Cathar Commando the second the Shelter by Ghost enters. However, that may buy us... unfortunately, we're going to have to Shelter by Ghosts and use our Defend the Rider just to protect it against the Cathar Commando to clear out this Elspeth. Interesting. Very interesting choice. Unless, of course, he has another one off the top, which would be a misfortune for us, of course. Unfortunately, they do have another off the top, which I believe is going to be enough damage to end us here.
I will turn the tide of battle. Strike from the heavens.
Happy we're to put this on the Llanowar Elves. Unlikely we would have been able to generate enough life to do anything much of meaningful. Be a first loss of the day against the mono white tokens. Very, very fun and enjoyable deck to play. Well, everybody, unfortunately we're going to have to end the day on a loss. It's a little bit of a shorter day for us today. Hopefully a similar amount of time as yesterday. However, we got a lot more volume of games, and that huge win streak we went on is hopefully going to start propelling us up those ranks. Only on day 2, almost in silver, much more than a 15th of the way there.